Welcome, dear listener, to a place beyond the reach of the waking world, a realm where the impossible becomes possible, where dreams come to life, and where your deepest desires are given form. Tonight, you will journey into the dream realm, a world woven from the fabric of sleep and imagination, where the ordinary melts away and the extraordinary takes flight. I invite you to settle in and let your mind wander, for in the realm of dreams, anything can happen. You may find yourself walking alongside a hero, a dream knight, whose courage will guide you through the night, where peace and danger coexist, and where every step holds the potential for discovery. As we begin, take a deep breath, close your eyes if you wish, let the world around you fade away, and allow the soft whispers of this story to pull you into the warmth and wonder of the dream realm. Know that here, in the space between wakefulness and sleep, you are safe, you are free, and you are welcome. So now, let us begin the journey, follow the footsteps of our dream knight, and together we will explore a world full of mysteries, magic, and the eternal fight to protect what is most precious. Are you ready? Then let us step into the world of dreams. Chapter 1. The Call of the Dream World. In the quiet stillness of the night, the world outside Aiden's window seemed to be holding its breath. The faint hum of crickets echoed through the night, and a gentle breeze whispered through the trees outside, making the branches sway like dancers in the moonlight. The night sky above was a deep velvet, scattered with countless stars that twinkled like distant diamonds, casting a soft glow over everything. Yet, despite the serene beauty of the night, Aiden found himself unable to sleep. He had tried to close his eyes, to surrender to the comforting embrace of slumber, but something stirred within him, a sense of longing, an undeniable pull towards something greater, something beyond the confines of his room. The day had been long and exhausting. The weight of the world seemed to bear down on him with each passing moment, and all he desired was a moment of peace, a respite from the constant pressure of daily life. He had been working tirelessly, his mind endlessly occupied with worries and tasks that never seemed to end. But now, as the night deepened, he realized he needed something more than rest. He needed to escape. He needed to find a place where the weight of his thoughts could lift, where the burdens of the waking world would no longer matter. And then it came, the feeling, a subtle shift in the air, a quiet invitation to journey into the unknown. Aiden lay back in his bed, staring up at the ceiling, his mind adrift. His eyelids fluttered, and he could almost hear a soft whisper, a voice that seemed to come from far off. At first, he thought it was just the wind outside, but as he focused, he realized it was more than that. It was a calling. The whisper grew louder, almost imperceptible at first, but then it became clearer. Call me, Aiden. Come to me. The voice was both soothing and mysterious, like a lullaby drifting on the evening breeze. It was as if it was coming from the very stars themselves, calling to him with an unspoken promise of something extraordinary. His heart beat faster, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. There was no way he could ignore the call now. He felt it in the very marrow of his bones, an irresistible pull towards something ancient and powerful. Without thinking, he rose from his bed. His room seemed to dissolve into a mist, and before he could fully comprehend what was happening, he found himself standing at the edge of a vast forest. It was as if the world around him had shifted in an instant, and he had been transported somewhere beyond his wildest imagination. The air here was different. It felt thick with magic, and the soft rustling of leaves seemed to speak to him in a language he couldn't quite understand. The trees were tall and ancient, their branches twisting and intertwining in ways that defied logic. Their leaves shimmered with a strange light, as though each one contained a piece of the night sky itself. Aiden stood in awe, taking in the beauty of this dreamlike place. The forest stretched out before him, a place of mystery and wonder. The path that lay ahead was inviting, winding gently between the towering trees and disappearing into the distance. A soft glow illuminated the way, coming from a distant point deep within the forest. It was a light unlike any Aiden had ever seen, a warm, golden glow that beckoned him forward. "Where am I?" he whispered to himself, his voice barely a murmur in the vast stillness. But he already knew the answer. This was not a place of the waking world. This was somewhere far beyond, somewhere only the dreams could reach. Without hesitation, Aiden began walking toward the light, drawn to it as if by an invisible thread. His steps were quiet on the soft earth beneath him, and with each passing moment he felt a sense of calm wash over him. It was as though all his worries were slowly fading into the background, replaced by a growing sense of peace. The weight of his thoughts seemed to lighten with every step he took. As he moved deeper into the forest, the air grew cooler, and the sound of the wind through the leaves began to take on a rhythmic quality, almost like a heartbeat. Aiden slowed his pace, listening. The whispering breeze seemed to be speaking directly to him, urging him forward. The words were unintelligible at first, but slowly they became clearer, like a song he had once heard in a distant memory. It was a song of comfort, a song of hope, a song of dreams. He continued onward, entranced by the beauty around him. The trees began to part, revealing a small clearing where the glow he had been following was most intense. At the center of the clearing stood a figure, a tall, cloaked being, their face hidden in shadow. The figure exuded an aura of both strength and serenity, as though they had been waiting for Aiden for an eternity. "You've come," the figure said softly, their voice carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom. It was neither harsh nor commanding, but gentle, as though this was a moment of quiet revelation. "I have been waiting for you, Aiden." Aiden froze, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. There was something about this figure that made him feel both at ease and awestruck at the same time. The figure slowly raised a hand, the moonlight catching on the shimmering threads of their cloak. "I am the Dream Keeper," they said, "and you, Aiden, are destined to become the Dream Knight." Aiden's mind reeled at the words, Dream Keeper, Dream Knight. The names felt both foreign and familiar to him, like they had been whispered to him in forgotten dreams long ago. But how could this be real? How could he, just an ordinary person, be destined for something so grand? "You are no ordinary soul," the Dream Keeper continued, their voice like the soft rustling of leaves. "You have been chosen to protect the realm of dreams, to guard the peace that exists between the waking world and the dream world. You will wield the power of dreams themselves, Aiden, and with that power, you will ensure that all dreams, those of hope, love, and joy, are preserved." Aiden's mind swirled with questions. He had always known that dreams held power, but to be part of this world, to be entrusted with such responsibility, was beyond anything he could have imagined. But how? "How can I become the dream knight?" he asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The dreamkeeper smiled, a slow and knowing smile that seemed to reach beyond the physical realm. "Come, and I will show you," they said, turning and stepping into the glowing light that surrounded them. Aiden followed, his heart full of wonder and awe. The night seemed to embrace him as he took the first step into this mysterious world, knowing deep down that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change him forever. Chapter 2: The Gateway to Dreams. Aiden felt the golden light wrap around him like a warm embrace, its softness inviting him to step forward. He hesitated for only a moment, caught between the familiar world he had known and this new, mystical reality that beckoned him. The dreamkeeper's eyes gleamed with quiet certainty, as if they had seen countless souls pass through this very moment before. "Come, Aiden," the dreamkeeper said, their voice filled with calm assurance. "This is the threshold. Beyond lies the realm where dreams are born." With a deep breath, Aiden stepped forward, his foot sinking slightly into the soft earth as if the ground itself welcomed him. The light that had enveloped him now faded, leaving only the soft shimmer of stars above. The air smelled faintly of flowers and something sweeter, like the scent of something long forgotten. It was a fragrance that carried with it a sense of timelessness, and for the first time in what felt like years, Aiden felt as though he had stepped into a place where time did not matter. Before him, the dreamkeeper stood at the edge of a vast, shimmering lake. The water was a deep, translucent blue, stretching endlessly into the horizon, its surface smooth like glass. The stars above reflected in it, creating a mirror image of the sky so perfect that it almost seemed as though the lake and the heavens were one. There was a sense of depth to the water, as if it held secrets older than the world itself. "The dream realm is a place of creation and rest," the dreamkeeper explained, their voice a whisper now, almost blending with a gentle breeze. "It is here that the dreams of all beings, humans, creatures, even the stars themselves, are born and nurtured. This lake," the dreamkeeper gestured toward the water, "holds the memory of every dream ever dreamt, from the fleeting reveries to the most vivid, intense visions. You will learn to tap into this pool of memories, to guide and protect the dreams that arise from it." Aiden's heart raced. The enormity of the task began to settle on his shoulders, yet the weight did not feel burdensome. There was something about this place, this realm, that felt like it was meant for him. He had always been drawn to dreams, to the stories that lingered at the edge of sleep, but to think that he was now a part of this mystical world was both thrilling and overwhelming. The dreamkeeper stepped closer to the water, their feet barely touching the surface. "Do you see the ripples?" they asked, pointing to the tiny disturbances on the water's surface. Aiden nodded, his eyes fixed on the glimmering ripples. They shimmered in the moonlight like faint echoes of something far away. "These ripples are the first whispers of a dream. They begin small, almost imperceptible, but with time and care, they grow into something more. Shapes, stories, feelings, dreams that take root in the hearts of those who sleep." The dreamkeeper extended their hand toward the lake. "To become a dream knight, you must learn to control these ripples. You must nurture them, guide them, and above all, protect them from the nightmares that threaten their existence." Aiden stepped forward, unsure but eager to understand. The moment his foot touched the water, the ripples surged outward, expanding in slow motion. The lake seemed to come alive beneath him, and he felt a surge of energy pulse through his body, as though the very essence of the water was flowing into him. He gasped, feeling an overwhelming rush of power and purpose fill his chest. The dream world was no longer a distant concept. It was tangible, real, and it was now his responsibility. The dream keeper smiled. "You feel it, don't you? The magic of the dream realm, flowing through you. It is a gift, Aiden, but it is also a burden. The ripples you create can bring peace, joy, and love, but they can also stir up shadows if left unchecked." Aiden nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of the words. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, he felt as though he had a place in this vast, mysterious world. Chapter 3. The Training Grounds. Days, or perhaps it was weeks, seemed to blend into one another as Aiden's training began in earnest. The Dream Keeper had led him through the forest, over the shimmering lake, and into the heart of the dream realm. Each new place was more wondrous than the last, filled with sights and sounds that felt like they had stepped out of a storybook. But now, Aiden found himself standing at the edge of a vast training ground, a place unlike any he had encountered so far. The sky overhead was a deep, swirling canvas of vibrant colors, golden yellows and soft pinks blended with cool blues and purples. The clouds were thick and puffy, like cotton candy, but they seemed to move with purpose, swirling and shifting like living creatures. The entire scene felt surreal, like a painting come to life. "This," the Dream Keeper said, gesturing toward the expansive field before them, "is where you will hone your skills. Here, you will learn how to control the dream energy, how to bring dreams to life, and how to defend them from the forces that wish to harm them." The ground beneath Aiden's feet was soft, like grass, but it shimmered with a strange iridescence. As he took a step forward, the grass seemed to ripple, responding to his every movement. The air around him hummed with an almost imperceptible energy, a force that seemed to resonate deep within him. The Dream Keeper stepped aside, the hands raised as if to call forth the elements. "The first lesson, Aiden, is to understand the nature of the dreams you will be guarding. Dreams are not static. They are fluid, ever-changing. To control them, you must learn to listen, to understand their shape and form." With a wave of the Dream Keeper's hand, the ground before Aiden began to shift. The earth parted, revealing a swirling vortex of mist and light. From the swirling mist, shapes began to emerge, first faint, then more defined. Aiden watched in awe as the shapes took form. First a small, golden bird, fluttering its wings, then a soft, glowing flower, its petals unfolding like a delicate fan. The Dream Keeper spoke softly, guiding Aiden's focus. "Focus, Aiden. Feel the energy of the dream. Listen to it. Guide it." Aiden closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. For a moment, the world around him seemed to fall away. The voices of the dreams whispered to him, their faint calls reaching deep within his soul. The energy was warm, inviting, but also wild, untamed. Slowly, Aiden reached out with his mind, feeling the vibrations of the dream energy, the pulse of life within it. He stretched out his hand, and the golden bird fluttered into his palm, its wings beating softly against his skin. A rush of warmth filled him, and he felt a deep connection to the creature, as if it were a part of him. The Dream Keeper's voice broke through his concentration. "You have the touch, Aiden. Now, control it. shape it. Aiden focused harder, feeling the bird's energy flow into him. The bird's form shimmered, becoming more solid, its glow intensifying. Slowly, he lifted it into the air, watching as it soared effortlessly into the sky. He felt the joy of the dream as it took flight, its wings cutting through the swirling clouds above. "This is only the beginning," the dream keeper said with a soft smile. "You are learning, Aiden, but there is much more to discover." Aiden felt a sense of pride swelling in his chest. The dream realm was vast and strange, but for the first time, he felt like he was truly a part of it. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was shaping it, giving life to the dreams that filled the sky. Chapter 4. The Dream Forge. As Aiden stepped into the Dream Forge, he could feel the power in the air. The room was vast, its high ceilings disappearing into a misty darkness, and the floor beneath him was made of smooth, polished stone that shimmered faintly. The forge itself sat in the center of the room, its fiery glow casting long shadows that flickered like dancing spirits. It was an ancient, powerful place, alive with the hum of creation. The fire that burned at its heart was unlike any flame he had ever seen. It wasn't made of ordinary fire, but of liquid gold that shimmered with every color of the rainbow, constantly shifting and changing. Aiden's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the heat from the forge on his skin, yet it was not uncomfortable. It felt right. The dream keeper stepped beside him, motioning to the forge. "This is where the most sacred and powerful dreams are born, Aiden. Here, the very essence of the dream world is woven into tangible forms. It is a place of creation and destruction, where dreams can be crafted into tools of power and protection." Aiden took a deep breath, trying to center himself. The dream keeper was right. This was no ordinary workshop. This was where the dreams of ages past had been formed, where the very building blocks of the dream realm were shaped. "We must forge the sword of the dream knight," the dream keeper continued. "It will be your weapon, your shield, your guide. But the forge will test you. It will demand that you pour your essence, your heart, into its creation. Only by truly understanding the power of dreams can you craft a weapon worthy of this realm." The dream keeper gestured toward the center of the forge, where a large anvil stood, shimmering with a light that pulsed with life. Beside it were several tools, hammers, tongs, chisels, each with their own ethereal glow. But it was the forge itself that commanded his attention. The golden flame in its heart seemed to pulse, beckoning him closer. Aiden's heart raced. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he felt ready. He was determined to prove himself. "Approach the forge, Aiden," the dream keeper instructed. Aiden took a few steps forward, his movements steady. As he reached the anvil, the air around him seemed to shimmer. He felt the weight of the dream keeper's eyes upon him, watching carefully. He couldn't afford to fail now. The dream keeper spoke softly, as though whispering a secret. "The sword you will forge is not simply an object, Aiden. It is an extension of you, an embodiment of your strength and your heart. It will carry your will, your dreams, and your ability to protect this realm." Aiden nodded, gripping the handle of the hammer that lay on the ground beside him. The hammer was heavy, its head made of a strange, translucent material that seemed to pulse with light. He could feel the weight of it in his hands, not just physically but emotionally, as if it carried with it the responsibility of the entire realm. He lifted the hammer, feeling a deep connection to the forge. With a deep breath, he struck the anvil. The sound was deafening, a mighty ring that reverberated through his body. The strike was perfect. The sound of metal meeting metal echoed in the forge, and from the impact, a shape began to emerge from the golden flames of the fire. Aiden could feel the energy of the forge wrap around him, and in that moment, he realized that the sword was not a simple weapon. It was a reflection of the world around him, of the dreams he had nurtured and the journey he had begun. It was a physical manifestation of his resolve, his purpose. With each strike of the hammer, the sword took shape, its blade shimmering with an ethereal glow. The process was slow, but it was rhythmic, almost meditative. He could feel the power of the forge coursing through his body with each strike, and he understood this wasn't just about strength, it was about intention, about love, about protection. Aiden spent hours shaping the sword, the glow of the forge lighting his way as the weapon slowly came to life. The hilt was forged from silver, gleaming with a soft, silvery light. The blade was long and sharp, glinting with an iridescent sheen, like the surface of water touched by the first rays of dawn. It was perfect, an extension of himself. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Aiden stepped back, wiping the sweat from his brow. The sword lay before him, its blade glimmering in the light of the forge. "Well done," the Dreamkeeper said, their voice filled with approval. "You have crafted the sword of the Dream Knight. But remember, Aiden, this sword is not only for battle, it is also a tool for peace. The sword's true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the ability to protect." Aiden nodded, his hands trembling as he reached down to pick up the sword. It felt right in his grip, balanced and strong. It was his weapon, yes, but it was also a symbol of the journey he had undertaken. Shop der Femme, den Nightmess. Aiden had only just begun to feel a sense of peace, standing there with the sword in his hand, when the atmosphere around him suddenly shifted. The air grew heavier, colder, and a deep unease settled in his chest. It felt as though the very fabric of the dream realm was trembling. The Dreamkeeper's face darkened. "The nightmares are coming," they said, their voice tight with urgency. Aiden felt a chill run through him. "Nightmares?" he asked, his grip tightening on the sword. "What do you mean?" "They are the opposite of dreams, Aiden. They are born from fear, doubt, and darkness. They are the shadow that haunts the light. They prey upon the weak and the vulnerable, feeding on their worst fears. And now, they've come for the dream realm." Aiden could feel the weight of the Dreamkeeper's words settle in his chest. The calm and serene world around him was starting to show cracks, and in those cracks, shadows began to move. Dark tendrils slithered across the ground, creeping up the walls of the forge. The once warm glow of the fire seemed to flicker, waning under the oppressive presence of the nightmares. The Dreamkeeper's eyes narrowed. "You must protect the dream realm, Aiden. The sword you forged is not just a symbol of your power. It is your shield, your defense. The nightmares will stop at nothing to consume everything here." Aiden turned his gaze toward the swirling shadows, feeling a deep sense of dread, but as the sword pulsed with energy in his hand, he knew he had to fight. The dream realm was his responsibility now. He was no longer just a dreamer. He was a protector. Without warning, the first nightmare emerged from the shadows. It was a creature of darkness, its form flickering and shifting like smoke. It had no definite shape, no face, just a swirling mass of shadows, its movements erratic and chaotic. It let out a low, guttural growl as it advanced toward him, its form rippling and distorting. Aiden raised his sword, the blade glowing with an intense light. The sword felt warm in his hand, its glow growing brighter as he focused on the nightmare. With a roar, he charged forward, the blade cutting through the air with precision. The sword collided with the nightmare, and for a moment there was a blinding flash of light. The nightmare screeched in agony, its form breaking apart like smoke in the wind. Aiden felt the energy of the dream world pulse with him as the creature vanished into nothingness, leaving behind only a faint echo of its presence. But as the last of the shadow faded, more nightmares emerged, each one more terrifying than the last. They seemed to crawl out of the very darkness itself, rising from the ground like twisted shapes, all of them intent on consuming the dream world. Aiden felt his heart race as the nightmares circled around him, but with each slash of his sword, he felt more connected to the dream realm, more confident in his role as its protector. He would not let this place fall, not on his watch. As the last of the nightmares was banished, Aiden stood panting, his sword still glowing with an ethereal light. He had won this battle, but he knew it was far from over. The Dream Keeper approached, their expression somber. "You have done well, Aiden, but this is just the beginning. The nightmares will not stop. They will keep coming, and you must be ready." Aiden nodded, his resolve hardening. He had forged the sword of the Dream Knight, and now it was time to use it. The Dream Realm was his to protect, and he would do so with everything he had.